Hello, Petal. How you doing? How's it going? How you getting on? Today we're going to try out a new setup, a little bit different, just because it helps me out with my legs, which will be delightful at this present moment in time. And it's also so I can hopefully be able to record a bit more as well. Just another one of those little factors that kind of adds in. So it'll kind of help with the sound of the extra fans on the computer, which we need to kind of keep everything processing really well. And it'll also help just being more comfortable as a general rule. As you can probably hear, the voice is pony. Little horse. I'm so funny. But we can get through this, because I have got buttermint tea, I've got normal tea, I've got lots and lots and lots of water, one of those big 1.5 litre bottles, which is always lovely, and the will to continue, and the will to record. It's always easier when you've got a good setup, and hopefully this will work nicely. And also what's really good is that with a setup like this, your main thing is you want to reduce the amount of post-production you have to do, because obviously that's another hour on top of the recording, at least, depending on the external noises and that sort of thing. So hopefully this will work out lovely. The only thing that I would say is, blind as a bat, can't see the screen, but it'll be okay, because we only need to worry about that when we're stopping and starting and re-recording bits and bobs. Yes, so it's going to be nice and comfy and nice and chill. As ever, drop me a line or leave a comment. Let me know how you're doing, how things are going, what's been going on, if you would like to. It's always good to keep in touch, just especially at this time of year, especially more so for everybody. And as I said, over the Christmas period, starting probably a couple of days before Christmas Eve, so that'll be 21st maybe. I have to work out what day of the week it is, but I'm really hoping to do evening lives like we did last year, because that was really nice. That was really cosy, depending on, you know, who's around. But either way, I'll kind of like just do it as kind of like a behind the scenes recording. We'll be doing Grimm's probably. That'd be nice. Hans Christian Andersen, which would be awesome. Maybe some traditional Christmas stories. That'd be kind of cool. And of course, the box of secrets. Yeah. Because I've got the paperback and I've got the Kindle ebook, so that's really awesome. Yes, as well as I've also got some really, really good etymology books that I'm really just devouring right now. And yeah, I'll tell you more about that on another day. We've got to get to the roundup. So basically, in short, the last episode was they were wanting to get from the Pinfold Gap service area, which I actually know that service area. That's I think I do anyway. But yeah, they wanted to get to the Garden of the Hesperides, which I'm probably not pronouncing correctly, but hey, all these things happen. It's all creative interpretation as far as I'm concerned. And talking about creative interpretation, so I'm probably pronouncing Epimetheus incorrectly, but yeah, it was a long time ago. And Pandora, they were kind of like, you know, you got Epimetheus and Pandora, you got Adam and Eve, you know, the beginnings of creation in the way the world used to be explained. There are generally two parties coming together and, you know, building a home together. And unfortunately, on this occasion, as with many other occasions, they received a parcel, got tempted by the evil. That is the home goods catalogue of some description. Worst of all, credit. So they get all these bits and bobs. And then, of course, that has its own little problems, as we were talking about, probably transit bolts. And they fell out, went to different caves on the other side of the mountain that they were on. And yes, when it came down to it, there was this teeny tiny little creature at the bottom of the box that they got, and that was the creature that is litigation. So, we were also asking, what's happened to our Norse gods? Where are they at? They've been away for a little bit of a while. There's too much focus on everybody else. I want a bit more of the Norse gods. And it just so happens that we are going on to chapter 9 of Odds and Gods by the wonderful, the beloved, the amazing Mr. Tom Holt.
Italy,
Odin asked, smiling. What on earth makes you think that? Below them, the traction engine ran smoothly, purring across the sky like an enormous flying cat. No, it's not. Now that's a good analogy. Yeah, especially with Myzina, sometimes she can purr so loud she can rattle the walls and snore. It had been Thor had fixed it eventually, and in doing so proved yet again the validity of his theory of simple mechanics, namely that just because something's inanimate and incapable of perception does not mean to say it can't be scared shitless by being threatened with a whacking big hammer. I also like that as well. Hey, you can make anything you can fix anything with a really big hammer. Yeah. Well, for a start, Frey replied, the place is full of Italians. Odin shook his head in gentle scorn.
It is a well-known fact, he said, that there's a substantial Italian population in the north of England. More a Yorkshire phenomenon than Derbyshire, I've always understood. But obviously you came across an enclave. A whole town full. They like to stick together. Escorting a statue of the Madonna through the streets to a Romanesque cathedral, probably in 19th century Gothic, past a town saying Bienvenuto in Bolzano. Twin town scheme, very popular idea these days, twinning. Never had it in our day, of course. Nearest we ever got was we burn your crops, you throw decaying corpses in our water supply.
Thor, propped on one elbow on the roof of the cabin, snarled irritably.
You'd better be right, Sunshine, he said, because if this is Italy, then we're a long way from home, and the further we are, the later it'll be before we get back, and the likelier it is that she'll have noticed we've gone, and you know what that means.
Are you suggesting that I'm frightened of Miss Henderson?
Yes.
Rubbish. Frey shifted uneasily in his seat.
If it helps at all, he murmured, I'm absolutely terrified of Mrs. Henderson.
Odin sniffed.
I've always reckoned you had a yellow streak in you.
Frey stiffened. True, he wasn't the most warlike of the Norse gods. He was, after all, a god of peace and fruitfulness, of nature and the quickening earth, or, as his devotees had put it back in the good old days, a wimp. True, in the last days, when the Aesir had ridden forth for the last battle with the frost trolls, it had been Frey who'd volunteered to stay inside Valhalla and man the switchboard and coordinate supply chains and monitor intelligence reports and all the other things one can find to do indoors in the time of war. But these things are relative, and even a wimpish Norse god is on average rather more quick-tempered and volatile than a bar full of marines at closing time on payday.
What was that?
He inquired.
You just said. I don't know about you two, Thor interrupted, but I'm scared of her, and so are both of you, if you get right down to it.
Odin shrugged.
All right,
he said,
and so am I, but that's beside the point. We're on our way home, and she'll never even know we've been gone, and that's a promise.
Is it?
Yes. I was afraid you'd say that. We are exactly on course,
Odin continued icily.
Another 3 minutes and we'll be directly over Warrington.
A look of recollected pain crossed Frey's face.
It's the way she draws her eyebrows together just before she tells you off that gets me, he said. As soon as you see those eyebrows move, you say to yourself, right, here it comes. But there's this sort of 20-second gap, and it's the waiting that gets you down. I'll swear she practices in front of the mirror or something. And the tone of voice, Thor replied. Don't forget the tone of voice. The way she says, what do you think you're doing exactly? It makes you feel so... I know. Will you two stop going on about Mrs. Blasted Henderson?
Thor shook his head and looked down over the side at the ground below. It was at times like this, when he found himself gazing down from the heights upon the kingdoms of men, spread out beneath him like some enormous chessboard, that he felt an overpowering urge to drop something heavy over the side. He resisted it.
So, what's that lot down there then?
He asked. Which lot were?
The major city with all the suburbs and arterial roads and things.
So high up was the chariot that all a mortal would have seen was a splash of grey, flickering intermittently through the veil of thin cloud. But the gods can see things which we cannot, not with their eyes, but with their minds, which thrilled to the subtlest harmonies of the planet. With their minds they can see time, smell light, hear the grinding of the earth on its axis, feel the vibrations of the changing seasons. Thus, from this height, a god would have no trouble at all making out the Colosseum, the Forum, the baths of Caracalla, Trajan's Column, St. Peter's Square, all the crazy cross-hatched jumble of junk and jewels that make up the eternal city.
Easy,
said Odin, throttling back and gently feathering the air brake.
That's the right twitch.
Ever since the world began, there has been a windswept hillside under an iron-grey sky, where 3 grey women sit beneath a bent tree and spin. What name you give them depends on who you are, but you can never be wrong, whatever name you choose, simply because what mortals call them is completely and utterly unimportant. Whether you refer to them as passé norns or weird sisters, nothing you can say or do will affect them in the slightest degree, because they were here first. More to the point, they will still be here long after you and everyone else have been entirely forgotten. They sit, and they spin. Some people will have you believe that they are asleep, and in their sleep they dream, and their dreams are thoughts, and their thoughts supply the world with wisdom. Alright, isn't it? We really need some of that right now, just saying. Others claim that what they spin is the web of life, its warp, its weft, and the final little dismissive click of the scissors. The truth, insofar as such concept has any validity in this context, is that they sit, and they spin, and occasionally speak softly to one another, just as they have always done, and what you may care to believe is your own affair entirely. I spy, with my little eye, they have no names, but let them be labelled 1, 2, and 3. Something beginning with O. For a time they were called Grey, and it was held that between the 3 of them they had 1 eye, 1 ear, and 1 tooth, which they passed from hand to hand. This is almost certainly untrue. Crop. Correct. You'll go. I spy with my, our little eye, something beginning with, hang on, I've still got the ear, said 2. Here, Elsie, catch. Oh, she's dropped it. She couldn't see because you've got the eye. That's right, all my fault as usual. Where is it? Asked 3, scrabbling in the short, wiry grass with her gnarled fingers. Left hand down a bit, steady as you go. Getting warmer. She can't hear you. Oh, for crying out loud. Their sleep is dreaming. Their dreaming is contemplation. Their contemplation is eternal, bitter resentment about who forgot to pack the spare organs. Got it, said 3. No thanks to you 2. It is perhaps unfortunate that the only organ they have in triplicate is tongues. Ready? Ready. I spy with our little eye something beginning with R. Ravine. Correct. Give better the ear, Elsie, and do please try not to drop it. I like that coming from you. One of the drawbacks that comes with playing I Spy for at least 5 hours each day in the same place ever since the beginning of time is that you reach a point where you know all the answers. Mountainside, said 2. 3 scowled. You might wait till I actually ask the question. It's the right answer, isn't it? That's beside the point. Oh, for pity's sake, said 1. Let's play something else. All right. What is undoubtedly true is that they are wise. All the wisdom in the universe has at one time or another made the circuit of that little ring before drifting out into other, more prosaic dimensions. This means that the 3 are very powerful, very wise, and name me 3 rivers whose names begin with Y. Yangtze Kang, Yarra and Yellow. Very, very bored. Let's play something else instead, sighed 2. What about consequences? No.
Why not? Because, replied 3, you cheat.
The ear flashed from hand to hand until it became a blur, the eye meanwhile lip-red.
I do not. You do. It's impossible to cheat at consequences. You seem to manage. You too, growled 1. Just shut up and spin, all right?
They sat, near span, and time ran around the circle. Time running in an enclosed circuit generates truth. Truth sparking across the points of knowledge becomes wisdom.
We could, suggested 2, play 20 questions. Are you out of your mind after last time? What? I said, are you out of your mind after last time? What? She's gone and dropped the ear again. We ought, opined 1, to tie a bit of string to it, and then we wouldn't have any of this. What? Oh, forget it.
On the skyline, about 700 yards away, a tatty yellow van materialised and crawled painfully over the rocky ground. There was the occasional scrunge, narrator's note, I frickin' love that word, as some component or other hit a stone.
There they are, said Osiris, pointing. You see them, Carl, just under that funny-shaped tree. I got that, Mr. Osiris. I think we just lost the exhaust.
Pan closed his eyes.
Look, he said, are you absolutely sure about this? Because those 3 old boilers really get up my nose. Absolutely essential, Osiris replied. Here, Carl, watch out for that. Sorry, Mr. Osiris. It doesn't matter.
Pan winced.
You sure, he said. We couldn't just look him up in the phone book or something. I mean, we haven't actually tried that, have we? Shut up, Pan. There's a good lad. Right, park here and we'll walk the rest of the way.
Under the tree, the 3 sisters stiffened, the web suddenly still in their hands.
Visitors, observed 2 with disgust. Not again, 1 sighed. That makes 3 times this century. What does it take to get a little peace and quiet round here? What's she saying? I said. She's dropped it again. One of these days, remarked 2 after a short scrabble, it's going to go in the cauldron to get cooked, and then where will we be, I would like to know.
Folklore abounds with different versions of how to approach the sisters and implore their assistance. All known versions are completely incompatible with each other, except that all agree that the sisters must be treated with the very greatest respect. Failure to observe this simple precaution will inevitably mean that any request for information will fall on deaf ear, even if the ear hasn't rolled away under a stone or taken refuge in the lid of the sewing box, and there are rumoured to be even worse consequences as well.
Watcher, Osiris called out. Hands up, which of you's got the ear? Who wants to know, short arse?
Osiris cleared his throat. The next bit always made him feel terribly self-conscious.
Look, he said, I conjure you by the dread waters of Styx, you who know all that is, all that was, and all that will be. Tell me now. I can't hear you, said 1, putting on her irascible crone voice. You'll have to speak up.
Pan leaned forward, grabbed the ear from 1's withered hand, and held it to his lips like a microphone.
He said, he shouted, lots of things about he conjures you, lots of stuff about how clever you are, and he wants to ask you something. Got that?
The 3 sisters sat for a while, waiting for the ringing inside their skulls to stop.
There is no need, said 1 frostily, to shout.
Sorry?
I said, there's no need to...
Sorry?
What did she say?
Pan grinned.
She said there's no need to shout,
he said, and tossed the ear towards 3, who fumbled the catch. There was a plop as the ear went in a big black pot that stood in the middle of the circle. The sisters shrieked in chorus.
Butterfingers, said Pan. Now then.
Sandra darted forward, plucked the ear out of the soup, picked a few lentils and split peas out of the funnel-shaped bit, and handed it carefully to 1.
Thank you, she said.
All right, fire away. Somewhere near the French-Belgian border, a giant Mercedes lorry thundered southwestwards through the night. Swiftly it went on its 16 wheels, and its iron belly safeguarded a consignment of 2,000 cases of tinned prunes. Narrator's note. The driver, a Breton, stared with weary eyes into the corner of white light his headlamps projected, and whistled a tune to keep himself awake. It had been a long day, and he had many miles to go, but the magnitude of his enterprise stirred in him a sense of adventure he hadn't felt since he was a lad. For there was a serious shortage of prunes in France, so the rumours said, and it was mildly flattering to be chosen to be the man who brought the canned fruit from Ghent to A. As he approached the border, he braced himself for a potentially tiresome passage through customs. He didn't need too exceptional imagination to forecast the reaction of a bored excise official to the information that the cargo aboard the truck consisted of 500,000 prunes. There would be funny remarks and witticisms, doubtless at his expense, and at 3 a.m. after a long drive he could do without that sort of thing, thank you very much. So preoccupied was he with these and other similar thoughts that he didn't notice the fact that he seemed to have acquired a shadow in the form of a big, black, 4-wheel drive with tinted windows. The first he knew about this vehicle, in fact, was when he came round a sharp bend to find the road blocked by a tractor. He slammed on his brakes and slithered to a halt, whereupon 3 shadowy figures jumped out of the 4-wheel drive, ran up to the driver's door, and pulled it open. Something metallic sparkled in the pale light of the stars. "Just climb out slowly," said a shadowy figure in abysmally accented French, "and you won't get hurt, okay?" The driver nodded quickly. "Fine," he said. "You do know what I'm carrying, don't you?" "Shut up." "Okay." By pure coincidence, another identical lorry, owned by the same road freight company, was carrying a load of 12 million cigarettes along the same route, only about 3/4 of an hour behind. Because of the prune famine, the schedules had been rearranged somewhat. Shortly afterwards, the lorry continued on its journey with a different driver and headed for a different destination, namely a deserted hockey field on the outskirts of Cambrai. On arrival, it was taken into a big shed and the doors closed behind it. Lights came on. Men hurried to the tailgate to start unloading. The gate opened. "Hang on," said a voice from inside the container body. "This isn't right, surely." The speakerman, fixed in a spotlight, turned out to be a white-haired old gentleman in a wheelchair. He was flanked by a plump girl, a large stocky man with an expression like a bad amateur taxidermy, a tall thin man in camouflage gear holding a very large handgun, and an even taller, thinner character with goat's feet. Slowly the hijackers backed away. Even those of them who could stomach the sight of Lundqvist's Desert Eagle felt distinct bad vibes from the expression in the old man's eyes and the curious terminals of Pan's legs. In the version they'd heard, it had been an old lady with an axe in her shopping basket, but this was clearly an updated recension of the same basic urban folk myth. "Sorry about this," Pan called out. "Only, we needed a lift, you see, and there was your lorry, and we thought—" There was a shot. Maybe it was fear, or perhaps a nervous finger tightening reflexively on a trigger. The bullet hit Pan in the forehead, passed out the back of his head as if through thin air, and buried itself in the mantle of boxes behind. Brown juice started to seep through the cardboard. Then there were more shots, Lundqvist giving area fire with the .50 caliber, which made a noise like a portable indoor volcano and took out most of the lights. The hijackers responded in kind. There were suddenly prunes everywhere. "Stop it," said Osiris briskly, "at once." Simultaneously, every firing pin in the building jammed solid, and the lights came back on. This time, however, they were supported by unpleasantly shaped figures with the heads of jackals, and for all their brilliance they seemed to produce more shadows than light. The hijackers came forward. "Now then," Osiris said, "someone tell me where we are." The gang leader, nudged forward by his colleagues, unravelled 6 inches of tongue from around his Adam's apple and explained, He also apologised profusely, expressed extreme regret for having inconvenienced such obviously distinguished supernatural persons, and asked if they would very kindly like to turn their prunes back into Marlborough Hundreds, as he had a customer weird ting.
Oh, no, you don't, Osiris replied. We've got to get to A by morning, and you're going to take us there. Otherwise,
he added with a pleasant smile,
something around here is going to get turned into cigarettes. But it sure ain't going to be the prunes. Capiche?
The journey was resumed. This time, however, the chief hijacker travelled inside the container with the muzzle of Lundqvist's gun nestling in his ear and Carl standing behind him with a tire iron.
Going far?
The hijacker asked. Osiris grinned.
You could say that, he replied. I don't think you'd want to know where we're headed. Really, I don't. That's fine, the hijacker replied quickly, only making conversation. But I'm going to tell you anyway, Osiris replied maliciously. That way, either you'll tell someone else, and they'll lock you up in loony bin for the rest of your life, or else you'll keep it to yourself and probably go stark staring mad anyway. Serve you right. We're gods. You don't say. And Osiris went on. We're headed for the kingdom of death, if it's still there. Last time I heard, they were trying to turn it into some sort of ghastly drive-in theme park, but I don't suppose they ever got planning permission. I mean, imagine the problems you'd have with off-street parking.
Indeed. To those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first give pins and needles in the left foot. The hijacker rubbed his leg against the side of the van, but it didn't help much.
We need to get there, Osiris went on, because the three wise women told us that in order to locate the lost hiding place of the golden teeth of El Dorado, which, as you know, lie at the world's end, are guarded by an enormous fire-breathing 100-headed answering machine, we have to find and read the runes of power chalked on the wall in the little boy's room immediately adjacent. That's what they said anyway, Osiris concluded. It's not April the 1st today by any chance.
You certainly have an unusual job, said the hijacker. Did you always want to be a god, or did you just sort of drift into it?
We need the golden teeth, Osiris went on, in order to pay our lawyer. That's just something on account, by the way, to cover initial expenses, setting up the file on the computer, routine administrative work, that sort of thing. He's very expensive, even for a lawyer.
He must be very good, though.
Oh, he is. Very.
Dun dun dun! Dun dun dun! Dun dun dun! Yay! Odin! Do you think he'll actually get convinced that he's not where he thought he was? And will we see the three wise women again? They're quite a fun little trio, inspired by Monty Python's Pepper Potts. Yes. Had to do that. That's a little bit nod there. We've been watching a lot of Monty Python recently, and that's, yeah. Do you know what? For the longest time, and I think it was since I was at college, so we are talking the longest time, I didn't watch Monty Python because it was done to death. You know, the 90s, where everybody was just literally reciting the same anecdotes from Monty Python over and over again, so much so that you wanted to reorganize their DNA to actually match that of one of, was it Michael Palin? Was it he that did all the artwork in them? Yeah, so that their DNA would actually replicate that of Michael Palin's artwork. I'm sure you can imagine that should be quite an uncomfortable position to be in. Yes, I do like Michael Palin's artwork. It was very, very good. Was it Terry Gilliam that did the artwork? I'll have to look that up afterwards. But yes, please let me know if you would like me to, when it'd be good, sort of like times and dates and things, and if you want to kind of like be around and about and do lives over Christmas, or if you want pre-recorded stuff that I can post up at that particular time, hopefully. Let me know how this one worked out. Let me know how the sound is. Is it any good? Is it alright? Is it going okay? Yes. I should really do a roundup, but my brain's just gone to mush right now because it is silly o'clock in the morning for a start. And, the next one will be chapter 10 that we do. And I wonder what's going to happen there. Oh my goodness. So basically on this one though, if we think about it, we saw the next stage of Odin's journey. How's he going to fit into all of this? And Osiris and crew, they did sneaky methods to go and get some golden teeth to pay their lawyer. Who will be their lawyer? I have my suspicions, but who will be the lawyer? I know who the lawyer is. Will their lawyer be effective? Will the legal route be the way to go? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? So, if it's cold outside, yeah, that was a dodgy song. But I will try and keep on track right now. So if it's all cold outside, wrap yourself up warm, have a nice hot cup of tea, keep all snuggy and lovely. If it's hot outside, keep yourself shaded, drink lots of water. Notice how drinks feature very highly in these. And keep yourself cool. But most of all, above anything else, take care, petal. Talk to you soon.